Holy One, we come to you anguished by over 250,000 deaths and all the losses caused by this pandemic. We are conscious of the stewardship of community spread entrusted to our care. We give thanks for the historic voter turnout and nonviolent expression of democracy during a pandemic and continue to pray for the peaceful transition of power. Spur us, Holy One, to be repairers, healers, dreamers, and peacemakers. Increase in us the instinct to put our democracy above everything. Help us to listen to each other, be patient, and forgive one another. Grace us with an increased measure to hold no malice against anyone. Strengthen us daily, quietly, and firmly to see your face in each other as we practice loving one another without losing prophetic clarity. In the name of the one who chose to understand over being understood, Jesus Christ, our healer. Amen. So this evening, we have a wonderful opportunity to actually listen to some of the dreams and plans that people are making for Advent, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for Epiphany. And it's pretty sobering to recognize that while we are so separated, there are so many wonderful, creative opportunities that are being dreamed up like never before during this time. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to listen to one another. So I'm going to give us a sense of how we will do that. But before we jump into a great way to share some of our plans, I'm going to invite Dan Berner, who is one of the chairs of the task force, to give us a sense of the latest guidance in terms of our in-person gatherings, and very appreciative of the fact that we are able to adhere to suspending in-person worship for right now. But I think the task force is giving us a little more information based on recent data and the trends in our region. I would also like to see if Mel, I think you're here somewhere, would be willing to, Mel or Nicole would be willing to share a word just briefly about the next steps for racial reconciliation, healing, and justice. And then I will pause to give you some instructions on how we will listen to each other. All right, with that, I'm going to invite Dan Berner.
Thank you, Bishop. So today I had a chance to meet with Ron Young and one other member of the committee to talk about statistics specifically. And we decided that based on the current surge, that though we have many different sources and we want to make sure that we get to the right sources and the right statistics and metrics that make sense, that the best thing to do considering the current surge is to continue our cessation of services at this point and for another 2 weeks. And before that time, we will meet and become more definitive around the specific metrics that we feel would be appropriate for regathering. And but given all of the curves and the fact that, among other things, the state of New York is surrounded by patches, all states that are in much more problematic situations, that we should remain at this point in time for an additional 2 weeks. So that was the work we did just today, and with the commitment that we will be continuing to work on this and get, again, something more specific in terms of the metrics as we move forward.
Sorry, Dan, I see a question. Is the 2 weeks after the proposed regathering of December 6th?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any questions for right now? For Dan or the task force? I will say that we will still continue with the same advice that we've shared, that up to 10 people can still gather to do live streaming and or to engage in a funeral. We are having an ordination this weekend, thanks be to God. Keisha is going to be totally COVIDified in her ordination because her deacon ordination also was during this pandemic. So she's going to be a pioneer of sorts in terms of how we are moving our leadership into ordained ministry. So with those provisions, so to speak, during this time, we still are listening to the task force in terms of what we can do and are not recommended to do. Any questions? Please use the chat feature for us to do that. Mel, do you have a minute to share a quick word on next steps for racial reconciliation, healing, and justice after our webinar?
I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
I don't think Nicole is on the call, if I'm correct. So I will proceed and hope I speak for both of us and the Racial Reconciliation, Healing, and Justice Circle. First of all, I want to thank those of you who took the time to join us for the webinar on the 24th. I think for those of us who were on that session, it was a transforming moment. And when the Racial Reconciliation Circle met to follow up on that webinar, one of the things that we focused on together with Mark Charles, who joined us again, was lament and how we lament in this time. Identifying our propensity to jump over lament and get to solutions and actions and all the things we need to do to make it all okay. Mark Charles really reiterated the need to sit with lament and begin from the depths of our lament to craft what he is speaking of in terms of a counter narrative, counter momentum. So in the next day or so, there will be an email from Nicole and myself about how we might gather in our places to lament in the next weeks and months, leading up to a celebration in early February, a celebration on Absalom Jones Day, as a way to come together out of a time of lament and consider next steps. One of which we're already also at work on, which is a diocesan training roadmap that we hope to launch come spring. So be on the lookout for that email, which I hope will be coming, if not by the end of this week, certainly the very first of next week. And I invite you to join us. Mindful also that Advent is a penitential season, and so it is fitting that we join in this season in a time of lament. I'd be happy for any questions or anything at this point. But thank you for this moment to give that update.
Thank you, Mel. Truly appreciate it. Dan, there are a few questions that are coming up. Do you want to just take them later? You can think about them, and towards the end of the meeting, we can address them. Would that be all right? Okay, brilliant. So right now, what I'd like to do is what I have experienced for the past few weeks when I've met with especially clergy for Bible study. And one of the things that I've heard is plans that are emerging for Thanksgiving, for Advent, and for Christmas and Epiphany. And I'd like to just create a way for us to share some of them. So here's, I think, a practical way for us to do this. We've got about 50 people online. So in order for us to get a flavor of what these might be, I'm going to invite you to use the raise hand feature, which is in your participant tab. If you click your participant tab, you will see there are 3 places you can click: invite, mute me, or raised hand. And if you click on the raised hand, we will know that you would like to share some of your plans for Advent, Christmas, and so on. So if you can do that, Steve Richards will call on you, and you can share for about a minute, on Zoom. Unmute yourself, share for a minute, and then he will gently urge you to stop. And then you can, if you have more to share, you can share it in the chat feature. Is that good? If you can give me a thumbs up, if that's a good plan. All right, brilliant. That way we'll hear a good sense of the plans that we have. So right now I'm going to invite, if you can raise your hand so that Steve can call on you. This is only gentle sharing, no bragging, but gentle sharing of some of the plans that are marinating or emerging within your system. So feel free to raise your hand. All right, I'm seeing some physical hand raising. We can do that too. Sure.
Keep your hand up if I don't see you, please.
Bishop, this is Abhi John.
There you go.
Hey, Abhi.
Yeah, today, in fact, our women's group is planning to have a sort of a nativity program. Nativity, Christmas nativity program. They are planning to involve 2 or 3 families, um, with social distancing, and they just want to do some sort of a video so that it can be displayed by Zoom, especially taking only the children separately and just doing the narrator, the Christmas narrator. So this is one of the plans that we are planning to do, and the Women's Fellowship is doing that, and children are going to engage in this.
Thanks, Abhi. Don Trends has his hand.
I'll kind of kick it off, and I'm going to go fast because I got a lot I want to say. My parish has already decided that we are going to stay away from doing in-person stuff until I think it was the 10th of January. And at that point, we will reevaluate depending on what's going on and make a decision whether we're going to hold off until the beginning of Lent. And we're going to keep doing those milestones like that, because waiting to hear every other week whether you're on or whether you're off is not healthy. And so we decided to handle it that way. What we are also doing during this time is this Advent, Christmas, Epiphany is we are adding a Wednesday evening prayer service and giving people options to pray in a couple of different ways. You know, one week, and we're doing this all by Zoom, and we had planned to do it by Zoom anyways. One week we're doing lessons and carols for Advent. Another week we're doing lament and reconciliation. A third week we're doing a Blue Christmas. Fourth week is a Taizé, especially right before Christmas, you know, zoning out for a little while. It'd be really good to be with the Lord just before Christmas Day. So that's the fourth Wednesday of Advent. And then going into the Christmas season, we're doing a Celtic Christmas evening prayer. And then we're also doing something for Epiphany. I haven't gotten that far yet, so I don't know what that service looks like yet. But that's the main kind of thing that we're doing, is just a broad you know, spectrum of different prayer services to help our people get prepared.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Very nice. We're going to go to Carl Giangio as he's got another meeting, so we'll get to him first.
Oh, well, thank you, Steve. I just wanted to follow up on the lament and reconciliation theme that's come out. At Joan Phillips' suggestion, we're going to steal shamelessly from Billy Daniels' reconciliation service and do that as a morning service, second Sunday in Advent, where it actually fits fairly well. And we're using that also as the theme for our Advent series, where we'll be able to look at how the idea of lament resonates throughout Christian, Jewish, and other cultures.
Thank you, Carl. Melanie?
Just a quick word. So during Holy Week, we had prepared a physical printed booklet for people with all the services and theological biblical reflections. People loved it. They loved having something in their hands. They loved having everything there. They could refer to again and again. So we're doing that a second time. We're doing that for Advent and Christmas. So beginning November 29, going through January 3rd, all the services will be in a booklet. In addition, we'll have theological reflections on the season of Advent and Christmas. We'll have a little history of the traditions of the Advent wreath. We'll have the head of our altar guild giving an instruction about how to create your own Advent wreath at home. We have godly play activities for children during Advent and Advent and Christmas. So we're excited about that, and hope that will be something that gives people a tangible, concrete connection to one another in a season that we're celebrating virtually.
Very nice, Melanie. Thank you. James Adams.
Could you unmute yourself, Jim?
Can I be heard?
Yep.
Okay. At St. Peter's in Geneva, the congregation looks forward every year to the children's Christmas pageant. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to do the pageant, but it's going to be recorded in the homes of all of our children. We're going to deliver script and costumes to every home.
Wow.
And so the parents will record their part, and then we're going to stitch it all together on a YouTube video. And we'll show that as our Christmas Eve children's service.
Wow. That's terrific.
Rick Hamlin, you had your hand up for a minute there.
Okay. In Cuba, the congregation is going to take part in what in the past has been a Council of Churches Thanksgiving and Advent service. We're doing it participating virtually, which is a different witness to the rest of the churches in Cuba, all of whom are open. And we take some heat on the fact that we've not been having in person. And whether our trust and faith in the Lord is really all that it ought to be. But anyhow, we're witnessing to that at this Thanksgiving service. And it's turned out, because of the way the numbers are going here with the virus, that 2 of the other 5 are joining in and doing this virtually as well. So there's some witness in terms of the safety and care of people. In Angelica, we're doing the same as NQ, but doing the same as Melanie talked in terms of sending out leaflets for each Sunday for the services, which we've been doing, but updated. In that is the lighting of the Advent wreaths, which each family will have in their own home, and we will do all that lighting and the praying about that at one time. And then I think we're going to have a homecoming service for Christmas Eve, all of which will be virtual on the radio. But the organ in Angelica has just been restored. So our organist tech person the way they're working it is recording the hymns for Christmas Eve and then sending that out to, there's about 50 folk around the country who are the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of parishioners. And each of them are singing to the recording of the tape, mailing that back to Ken in Angelica, and then he's got the software to overlay all those voices. So by the time we get to Christmas Eve, hopefully we're going to have somewhere between 40, 50 folk, both in Angelica, but around the country, families that are calling in and going to be singing the hymns together to this organ, which is for us new. So it's going to be a fun experiment.
Sounds awesome, Rick. Really appreciate it.
That's great.
Virginia Tyler Smith.
Well, first of all, Rick, that gives me shivers. I just, that's going to be so cool. So at St. John's in Honey Eye Falls, I'm actually going to be doing a sermon series using the National Church's Advent curriculum for Journeying the Way of Love. And so I will be basing all of the sermons off of that curriculum and the guiding questions within it. We also will be in our evening prayer using the Advent section of Daily Prayer for All Seasons. And I'm looking forward to using that wonderful resource. And then we'll also be doing the Advent Word on Facebook, making use of a lot of the national resources.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, since the hand raising is not really popular, I'm going to call on you because I've heard some really amazing stories already. So let me go to some of the folks whom I heard that I think you should hear. By the way, we are recording this session so that you can pass it on to people in your circle, because there's some really good creative ideas and we want to make sure we hone in on them. So if that's okay with you, Steve, I'll...
Yeah, and I have one more hand raiser for you.
Oh, okay, so, good. Why don't you call them?
Yeah, Debs.
Oh, hi, everybody. So what we decided, I'm concerned about the children and the young people in our parish, because like a lot of our adults have been getting on Zoom, the kids are kind of not as Zoom friendly. And so we kind of started we're going to start these Friday evening Advent evenings together. So for the whole of Advent, we're saying on Friday evenings, especially for families with kids or young people, getting together, and we're making very practical things. Like the first one, we're going to be making Advent wreaths together when we've sent out the supplies. Everybody's gone hikes or collect these different items and then create these, which we're going to use for family altars. But then we're also doing things like an abridged car rally. So we called it an angel trail, because we were very aware, like in Greece here, we have a lot of angels in our communities, like all the doctors and nurses and the bus drivers for the schools and teachers. There's just so many people doing such amazing work. So what we're doing is we've got these beautiful, someone in our parish cut out of beautiful metal, these 10 big angels. And so we're actually going to identify 10 places that we want to recognize as a community in Greece. We're going to put these angels up during Advent with a little like laminated note just saying, from Trinity Episcopal Church, we just want to say thank you so much for what you guys are doing. You're angels amongst us this Christmas and we love you, you know? But then what we're going to do is we're going to have clues. And so everybody who signs up, they'll get a car that they feel safe with being in. And then the idea is that we'll actually in the nighttime, we'll have little lights guiding the way. So the idea is there's always light in our community guiding the way. And we're going to have like a kind of a car scavenger hunt for these angels around the community. And we're doing it all to try and raise money for migrant families at this time. So you'll sign up in that. So that's generating a lot of enthusiasm that I think is a highly replicable idea in many communities, but it's also a way of, you know, acknowledging people out there. And then we're doing like our first online pageant as well. And we're going to make it highly interactive, and we're adapting the story. So we're saying, again, who are the angels? Who are the shepherds, the people who are shepherding our community at this time? If we're going to bring gifts to God instead of gold and myrrh and frankincense, what would be the best gifts we can give at this time? You know, we're looking at who are the wise men, who are the wise people that we need to be listening and following. So we're kind of doing an adapted version of a pageant this year. And then we're going to have a candlelight service with people in their own homes. We're saying just, you know, darken your house, light candles everywhere, and we're going to be having a bit of a Christmas carol service. Yeah, so that's what we're doing.
That's great, Tubbs. Thank you.
Sure.
Ron Young has his hand up.
So we, as Dawn said, we are planning that we will not do in-person services at Christmas. We have it's the limitations on the, even if we were or are going to be open, we could not have enough people or enough services to serve the need of it or the desire of people coming. So we are producing 3 items for Christmas. The first is an Advent 4, and this is our tradition that we are doing 9 lessons and carols according to the tradition of King's College, Cambridge. That will be our Advent 4 service with a choir. The choir has been recording Christmas music since mid-October. We will do 2 services for Christmas Eve. One is a child-friendly service that is a traditional 2 p.m. and we will insert a virtual pageant into that service. And what would be our 2 main services for the 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. We will be recording that with full choir, and that will be the main service. But we're doing one other thing. We are creating a CD of Christmas music, and we'll be sending it out to all the parishioners. Anthems, carols, and so forth. So we'll send it out to people, and if they wish to donate, they can. But it's a small gift at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is rich. So let's hear from Keisha and then Gretchen, who had some terrific ideas.
To remember what I said this morning.
Yeah.
We're doing a Thanksgiving Eve service on Zoom next Wednesday, just to sort of acknowledge that there are things to be thankful for in 2020. And then for Advent, I'm offering a Advent book study. The book's called From Holidays to Holy Days. It's by Albert Holtz. He's a Benedictine monk who lives in Newark, New Jersey, and he takes walks around his community every day and relates the symbols he's seeing, like the secular symbols, Christmas trees and lights and crowds and presents, back to our holy symbols of the season. So I'm doing that Tuesday evenings during Advent. And we are also not planning an in-person Christmas Eve service. So we're still working on the plans for that. But there will be a lot of recorded music. I think our organist is going to come in and record Christmas music on the organ. And then we do Zoom, so we'll have all of our PowerPoints embedded with videos for all of the music.
That's great.
I guess me, right? And I'm like, Keisha, what did I say this morning? I don't remember, but I do. We are going to, we started a new adult formation offering for this year and on Wednesday nights. And I don't think St. Mark's in Newark has had adult offerings in a few years. And when they do, it's just like the season of the Lent and the Advent. And so we did start with one this year, and we did a book study from August, and we just got through with it about 2 weeks ago, and it was heavy topic. So we're going to do for Advent, we started last night watching together on Zoom a movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And so we are doing a study on It's a Wonderful Life that is a Bible study, and it will go through January, I think is 2nd, is the first Wednesday, and January 6th, it's the first Wednesday, and Epiphany. And so we're doing that, and I think people are really kind of excited to have, like, it's fun to do a movie together on Zoom, because a lot of my parishioners are live alone, and so this is a way to kind of gather and kind of watch a movie together, and so it's kind of fun. That was kind of fun, and I think it'll be really exciting to have kind of a conversation with a movie that's well known and well beloved, and that's going on. And then we're working on our plans for Christmas Eve, and I've just been talking with a couple of people on my leadership teams on worship, since we just talked about extending, and we're kind of at the point we're going to probably stay online through January the 3rd. So we're going to be looking at ways that we're going to be doing December 24th, and what else to do during Advent. So hearing some of the ideas that y'all have been saying have been really great, and of course nobody steals around here, but it might look similar, right? So anyway. So there you go. That's kind of what we're doing at St. Mark's.
Did you talk about the movie night that you did?
Oh, yeah, the movie night. So we watched, last night I just went on, we all got on Zoom who wanted to, and I did a screen share of It's a Wonderful Life. And it just really kind of was fun to be able to do that together. And now there are other ways that you can do it. If you've got Netflix, you can do a watch party. And but not all of my people have Netflix. So but it's, I think it's another way that you can, stay connected during this time. And maybe we can watch more Christmas movies as we go through this season together. So, Is that what you were talking about?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Other ideas. I heard a nice idea at, I was visiting a vestry meeting recently, and I wonder if Gary Gochek or Ken Pepin would be willing to share some of the ways in which they are reaching out to people who are not digitally connected.
Ken, I'm going to leave that to you. That's more you, I think.
Well, go right ahead, Gary.
As far as not digital connection, that wasn't. I don't know that I was the one. I just said we had done a great job of maintaining community over these last several months, but a lot of that was with digital connection. So go ahead, please, Ken. Go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, well, our whole focus, like many of us, is to try not only to work with our own folks, but also to reach out beyond the church. We also provide people who aren't able or don't have computers. We send them the bulletin. We reach out to them in a variety of ways like that, which I'm sure most folks are doing. I was thinking the other day about, speaking of creative things to do for Christmas, of having a live nativity. And we have lots of deer up here, and I figured we could dress a few of them up with different animals and so on and so forth. We're just trying to establish a little humor here in St. Luke's during this difficult time. Mostly we will be like others, we're probably going to be Zooming through Christmas. And what we will be doing for Thanksgiving is the night before Thanksgiving, we're going to have a candlelight service of sorts. Again, thinking of the people that we want to be near, even though some of us aren't able to travel and so on. I'm not sure I filled your what you remembered, Prince, but that's about it for us.
Yeah, I was thinking of also what David Prenner was doing.
Okay, David Prenner, in terms of.
I think he was saying that he and Don had just really been reached out, just on the phone, whatever.
Right.
And that's been happening really since.
Right.
As a vestry, we started in March, but Don and Dave have really kept up with that over the last several months, and really reaching out to some people who have more difficulty getting in online.
Yeah, that's really important because not everybody is able to get on a Zoom coffee hour or a service.
Right.
So that was I thought that was really thoughtful of the vestry to just be mindful of someone reaching out to people who otherwise don't get to join online.
Right, absolutely.
That's
and
terrific.
Christmas, we bring usually a plant or a flower or something to folks who are shut in or aren't able to make it.
It's great. Thank you, Ken. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No, that's
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, no problem.
Very much. Yeah. Others, this is really rich. So good of you to share some of what you're dreaming. There was a question about Blue Christmas earlier that I know some people are not familiar with, and some are familiar with it. Could someone speak to that? Lance, would that be okay for you to speak about?
Yeah, we usually have done it the Monday before Christmas Eve, and I used to call it a Blue Christmas, but we now call it a service of healing and remembrance, and it was really designed for those that are having a very difficult time at Christmas, and it's very difficult, as we know, for everybody. So it's a liturgy where we can acknowledge it and lift it up, and it's geared towards those who have experienced loss of whatever form as we go into. And it was it's a quiet liturgy, no music. It was typically done in candlelight, and I'm thinking we live stream our liturgies, but that one might work best in a Zoom format. But people have really appreciated the chance to acknowledge their thoughts and their feelings and lift them up. So there's special prayers around the Advent wreath and prayers of the people. We can't do Eucharist this year, but I can figure out a way to sort of end it and incorporate people. But it was Blue Christmas sounded sort of a pejorative, so I'm just healing of service and and remembrance. So it wasn't long. I could shoot out a copy of it to anyone that might want to see the
Would you?
exact format.
Yeah, that would be great if you could share it with Steve. He can put it on our website.
Sure.
Because I think this year especially, that'll be appropriate for a lot of people, for all of us. Yeah, good. Other
Prince,
ideas? Yeah.
what we're doing is we've set aside the third week of Advent to really acknowledge grief and be able to speak and process grief. So what we've done is we've set aside a Thursday evening where we're getting together with all the other churches in our area and clergy, mainline churches and clergy. And we've designed like an ecumenical Blue Christmas service. But then on Friday night, on our Advent get together that night, and I know it may sound kind of crazy, but we've got everyone like doing their own altars at home. And so what we've got everybody doing is getting a little blue bottle, like some bottle that means something to them, or getting a little blue bottle. And there's that whole thing where it's like God collects every single one of our tears. And so we're actually going to have on all of our altars a blue bottle. And the idea is to take water and literally drop by drop name what are the things we're grieving at this time? What are the things, that who are the people we're missing? And to literally be placing water in those bottles, which we're then going to bless and offer up to God. And we've got a little children's story called The Little Blue Bottle. So we'll be speaking and trying to get kids as well, because children have got a lot of grief this year as well, and so trying to enable children to be able to maybe share some of their grief and process it as well. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Amazing.
Prince Nita Bird has her hand up.
Nita.
Yes. So I just wanted to point out that one thing we were trying to do and thinking about when students do return in January is doing a lot more outdoor activities. So as we talked this morning, it occurred to me in our district meeting that we can do a lot around Epiphany even in the whole season. So I want to do something with a fire pit and Epiphany with students. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but with that theme of taking your love out into the world, taking the love of Christ into the world. But just trying to get people outside a lot more is really what I want to try to do.
That's terrific, Nita. Nita, would you also share a little bit about how things are on campus with the young people?
Okay, yes, I definitely will. Right now, next week will be the last week where we have in-person instruction, and it's only from Monday and Tuesday. And so far we have been really blessed that we have done very well. We're testing students several times a week, like hundreds of tests each week. And we have had almost no cases for over about 6 to 8 weeks. And the ones we had were travel related and they were quarantined.
Terrific.
So we're really hoping that things continue to go well next semester, but I have been so thankful. And the main thing is keeping people's spirits up. So we're thinking about things people can do socially distanced outside next semester and just bundle up.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Another hand
Thanks
raised.
for asking.
Another hand raised. Colleen Horton.
Hi. Normally, the Daughters of the King at St. Peter's in Henrietta does Advent wreaths. Well, we've come up with a way to still do that on the 29th, where we're going to try to get all the supplies cut up and ready so people could come in and just pick them up. Or if they would prefer, we could do a contactless delivery to their house of the supplies so that everybody still gets to do their Advent wreath, even though we're not going to have it in person and people at the building. So cross our fingers, it'll all work well.
That's great. Thank you, Colleen. Devin, could I put you on the spot just to give us a quick update on how things are with Episcopal Senior Life Communities? I know like many of us, you were able to contain a lot of things. And with the changes, if you will, how are you all coping?
Sure, I can do that. Yes, November 4th was we had our first resident test positive for COVID-19. Up to that point, we hadn't had any residents in the nursing home. I'm talking specifically about the nursing home that had tested positive. So that was our date of our first resident. Someone on our unit that is primarily designated for dementia residents. And since then, we've have had numerous more residents test positive on that one unit, that one floor. So obviously staff up on that floor are using full PPE. We're limiting the staff that are allowed to work on that floor. Like, for example, if a staff person is on that floor, they don't work on any other unit. Like, they only work on that unit. And I'm actually not allowed to go up there myself at this point because I visit our other communities, our other independent living communities, assisted living communities. I go on all the other floors of the nursing home and the rehab unit. So right now I'm not allowed up there either. And we've just doing the best we can. So far, those residents are doing pretty well, but I mean, they are tested positive, so we're just doing the best we can to contain it just to the residents on that unit. And as much as possible, we're kind of like, for example, people on that unit who have tested positive, their rooms are sort of grouped together now, and we're doing everything we can to contain it. But it is, I mean, it was just obviously very sad news for our community after having gone all this time without any positive resident cases. We've also seen a ramp up in positive staff cases as well. All of our staff have to be tested for COVID-19 every week. And we're seeing more staff that test positive and then of course have to be out of work for at least a couple weeks and have to have 2 negative tests before they're allowed to come back into work again. But I think, we've got a great community in terms of people supporting one another. We do have a great staff that we have a real kind of camaraderie and spirit to core the place. So we care for and reach out in support to one another. But we certainly can really appreciate your prayers at this time and ask you to remember us in your daily prayers and pray that our residents get through what they're experiencing now okay.
Thank you. We will, Devin. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Before I invite Dan, Patty, how are you all doing with your group home and chaplaincy there?
The group homes at Heritage Christian Services, where I'm one of the chaplains, they're doing well. We've had very, very few positive cases of folks, and everybody is staying healthy. And when there is an exposure, there's quarantine and things like that, but very, very few cases. I'm doing well. I've been able to visit 1 site per day. I'm actually back working full time within the spiritual life and faith community inclusion department. So I'm no longer full time at one group home, but I'm able to travel to various sites.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you, Patty. Be safe, man.
Yes.
Wonderful. Dan, do you have any closing wisdom?
Okay. I wish I was wise, but I will do the best I can. One of the comments that came up a couple different times was considering that we're extending 2 weeks, why don't we just say the rest of the year? And one of the things we said from the beginning is, first of all, you should feel safe. And regardless of what we say about giving advice about whether or not we should be having in-person services, if you feel that you should not be, you can do that. And if you feel like it's in the best interest of your parish in terms of planning and whatever, in terms of the way that you minister to them, to not have in-person services, then by all means, you should exercise that. And if you're in a situation where you need someone to blame because someone's pressing you on the issue, you can tell them it's me. So far I haven't received any bad comments, and so I'm happy to take the heat if you need someone to take the heat for you. But the bottom line is, do what you think is best, both for the safety of your people physically and for the well-being of your people spiritually. If you feel like it's too disruptive to think about having a date in the near future that causes anxiety, then by all means exercise that on the behalf of your people and exercise that particular pastoral relationship. I would say, by the way, that when we went through Lent, we encouraged all the people in our parish to set up a home altar. It went very well, and we're going to do the same thing in Advent. And we're keeping our Advent wreath very much more simple. We discovered that we had massive amounts of construction paper, and so we're cutting the leaves out of construction paper and mailing it in envelopes. So it makes it very simple, but people can set it out on their table and have a focus. So we're doing it with a little more basic, but keeping it really, really simple, so that so we can make it happen. And we've got some other things that we're trying to plan where we continue to reach out during the period of time to folks and be in touch. My vestry has been making calls since March routinely, and we continue that practice. And so those are the things that we're doing. But what a wonderful bunch of ideas here. I've certainly got some that I'm going to talk to my worship committee and the vestry about what we might do to expand our plans as well. So thank you all for all of those wonderful things.
Great, thank you, Dan. Yes, and to just reiterate, please make your best judgment decisions at the local level. This is certainly advice from the task force based on some of the trends in our numbers, which you can use as a way to justify going forward, because we are in winter, and it does make sense for us to be mindful and protective of those entrusted to our care. Very grateful that we have, in that sense of the word, been able to contain any community spread from any of our churches so far, and we want to keep that trend going, because that's a real credibility issue for us as well. So with that, I'm going to make two pitches. One, I'm not a baseball player, but two things primarily to invite your participation in your communities. One is an idea that came to Steve from Billy Daniel, and that was for us to be able to celebrate a cornucopia of gratitude. So if you could record and invite folks in your circle to record a 30-minute thank you message. It can be any which way you want it to be, but not for more than 30 minutes, and email it to Steve.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds. Oh gosh, did I say 30 minutes? I'm a preacher. So yes, 30 seconds. Thanks for that, Steve. And email it to Steve. If it's more than 30 seconds, it will have difficulty getting on an email. You can do that, and we would like to share that with the rest of the diocesan family as a way to say that we are indeed in the midst of a pandemic, still a people grateful for the gifts that God has given to us. So does that sound like a possibility? Can I see a thumbs up from you if you think that's a good idea? And please share it with the folks in your circle so that they can do the same. I'd really like us to have 1,000 of them for us to be able to say thank you in the midst of this pandemic. The second is, I've heard many of you say that you're recording stuff for Christmas, especially. If you can send something that you have recorded to Steve, what we'd like to do is put together a potpourri of Christmas musical offerings and have a gala of sorts sometime in 21, early 21, Epiphany maybe, so that we can come together and raise a cheer together online and be together. Is that possible? Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much. I know that there were several prayers that were lifted up, so I'm going to ask if we can pause to lift up those prayers, either silently in our hearts or wherever you are. If you're muted, that's fine. If you want to raise those prayers of intercession and thanksgiving at this time as we close our gathering.
I give thanks for the ministry of Keisha Stokes and wish her blessings on her ordination.
I give thanks for my brand new granddaughter, born on October 11th, and she is now 5 weeks old, and mom and baby and son-in-law are all doing well.
Beautiful. What is her name?
Braylon Mary Cotting.
I give thanks for my daughter and son-in-law who are expecting a baby in January.
I give thanks for my mother who will be celebrating her first birthday in heaven tomorrow.
I give thanks for so many people at our colleges who have made very generous donations to our student food pantry and a food drive.
Beautiful. Well, your Thanksgiving table will be different this year, but the gratitude will still be the same or more recognized. May God grant you a nurturing inner comfort through the remembrance of food, friendship, and all manifestations of love. May God grant you fresh reminders of presence through interdependence in every old and new encounter. May God grant you generosity that wells out of gratitude as you see your invisible neighbor mirror the same image you were made in. And may God bless you with a deep and abiding peace that heals dismemberment to make all things new. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be among you and remain with you this Thanksgiving, Advent, Christmas, and forevermore. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you, Steve. Be well. God bless. Be safe. And pray for Keisha.
Bye-bye.